Hi students, it's Mr. Cohen here. If you can hear some snoring in the background, that's not Mrs. Cohen, that's Pablo, and he's right next to the computer, so you're going to hear him once in a while. Anyway, let's take a look at this picture. Yep, it looks like we're in Beijing, China. No, just kidding, Paris, France. And if you notice, it's an arch. Remember back to our influences of the Romans. There's the arch influenced by the Etruscans upon the Roman civilization. And this is a triumphal arch in the middle of Paris, France, Arc de Triomphe. Anyway, so why am I showing this? Well, today you are going to be building upon the Spanish interactions with Native Americans by looking at the French interactions with Native Americans, because the French did settle the Americas also through the Age of Exploration and afterwards too. Let's take a quick look at Paris. Some of the beautiful architecture there. There's a view. Lots of parks in Paris. A beautiful city. This is the Louvre, and in this art gallery, one of the most famous art galleries in the world, if not the most famous. Some of the art that we've studied during our Renaissance lessons is located here, including Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. Some of the architecture in Paris actually is quite similar to Washington, D.C., and that is because a French architect also helped design a large part of Washington, D.C. By the way, you see the Roman and Greek influence here in this building, the pediment, okay, and the columns, so on that building. So this is Paris, France. And let's just get out of here. Let's zoom out, because we're going to be leaving Europe over here. We're going to be heading across the Atlantic Ocean, so we're going to be heading west across the Atlantic Ocean. We're coming to the Americas. Now, the French settled different areas of the Americas. In the south, some of the islands of South America, Central America. Some of them still speak French, but there was a huge area of North America that was settled by French people. When we look at the French interactions with the Native Americans, I want you to think back of the interactions between the Spanish and Native Americans and kind of compare and contrast. How do you feel the relationships were different or similar, if you think they're similar? But the French settled areas from northern parts and middle parts of Canada, coming down through Maine, coming through this area, through the Midwest, coming all the way south to Louisiana. Okay, I'm going to be showing you several maps. Like, for example, this is just one map. The blue areas show where the French settled, and this map, I believe, is from 1750. The blue area would have shrunk and expanded over time, and these areas that are purple are actually areas that France gave to Britain because of wars and so on. They had to give over some of their land that they'd taken from the Native Americans. So it wasn't the French or the British land to begin with. We see here this sandy colour is where the Spanish had claimed land, and the pink area is land claimed by Great Britain. So we're seeing, like I said, it shows here in purple, it's showing land that was given back, or it's not given back, should I say, surrendered because of wars. So these European countries are fighting over land that was taken from the native peoples. We will see, though, that the French do relate to the Native American people in a very different way than the Spanish. Let's take a look at these maps, by the way. You'll see many maps on the internet that show very different areas taken over by the French and other European nations, because these maps are taken, they're like a moment in time, and so they change over time. More land's taken, or land is lost in wars and so on, or through peace treaties. Pablo, are you okay? All right. So let's take a look at the assignment that you've got to work on. You're going to be working on this assignment, French interaction with the Native Americans. You'll be looking at the explorations of Giovanni di Verrazzano, who's actually Italian, but exploring from the French. He came to North America, sponsored by Francis I, the King of France. And after Giovanni di Verrazzano, we've got Jacques Cartier. Cartier, he comes up the river, a famous Canadian river, the St. Lawrence River. He's looking for a way to get through North America, and some of these explorers are thinking that they can get through North America on the way to Asia or to the Pacific, and they have some difficulties because the St. Lawrence River doesn't go that far across Canada. Champlain, we've got Lake Champlain, which is named after Champlain. Lake Champlain in the United States is named after Champlain, another French explorer. Also Father Marquette and Louis Joliet and Robert La Salle. La Salle built upon some of the trips these early explorers had made, and his plan was to build a trading post at the mouth of the Mississippi River. Notice it mentions trading post. So you're going to notice that these explorers, the French, should I say, and some of the explorers, are wanting to very much get involved in the fur trade. Furs were a real sought after item in Europe, especially beaver furs, and the French can make a lot of money trading those items made from furs. So you're going to see that they have relationships with the native peoples built on trade. Very different than the relationships the Spanish had with the Native Americans. And here I'm going to ask you to give me some examples of relative location. For example, I'm asking you, where is the St. Lawrence River? Well, for example, the St. Lawrence River would be north of what and west of what. So build upon those geography skills. And next question, how did the St. Lawrence and Mississippi rivers benefit the French? How did they help the French, those rivers? And then this is the question here dealing with the interaction. Describe French interaction with the native people in the New World, in the Americas, and use examples from this reading. How are they dealing with them? Are they on relatively friendly terms, or is it very hostile? And then I'd like you to think about how life could have been changed for the better and for the worse for the French and the Native Americans through those interactions. How could things have changed that would have been maybe good for both, or good for one, or just good for the other, or worse for both or the other? Okay. So you've just taken a look at the questions that I'm going to be asking you. Let's take a look also at some of these areas over here. Let's go to, we'll go to some cities that still speak mainly French in North America, and students who've been learning French. Dempsey, some of you will be going to this city, Quebec, and people have described some parts of Quebec as looking quite European. There's a lot of old style architecture there still. There's a lot of stone buildings. Here's the St. Lawrence River in the background. Okay, so quaint streets like this, looks very European. And being a French city for many years, this would be a Catholic church rather than Protestant church. Remember, you learned about the Reformation. France remained a Catholic country. Here's a ceremony of guards. And Canada today is mainly French and English speaking. There are predominantly French speaking areas such as Quebec, and others that are predominantly English speaking. Okay, this looks like very European, like a very European city with a narrow walkways and so on. Here's the St. Lawrence River again, a major trade route. And when I was a kid in Manchester, England, ships would go back and forth from Manchester to Canada and end up travelling up this river, the St. Lawrence River. Okay, so that's Quebec. Then another major city in Quebec, that was Quebec City. Let's look at Montreal. Mont meaning mountain, Real meaning royal, royal mountain. Okay, much more modern looking city, more skyscrapers with some old buildings also. Still very much got a French influence and French speaking area of Canada. That's right, Pablo. Okay, kids, let's zoom out. So at one time, areas from around all the way from here, this part of Canada, coming all the way through the Great Lakes, down here to Louisiana, was claimed by France, this area, within the cursor pattern. Okay. The English would have had their colonies in this area here. The Spanish were further south. Okay, around here and south. And all three countries had colonies in these islands in the Caribbean area. Okay. So kids, what I'll do is today I'd like you to answer those questions with this assignment. You're going to save your work, and then let's see today's, well, after you also look at the English interactions, I'm going to, doing the same kind of thing, you're then going to be answering questions on all three interactions with the Native Americans. All right, kids, so it's goodbye for me and goodbye from Pablo, who is now fast asleep. Okay. Have a great day, kids. Thank you.